All right, we are live with another episode of Business Ventures Podcast. And I've got an amazing guest this time, Jonathan Broce. Man, Jonathan has an amazing background. I was actually looking through it, like I said, on your website and doing your bio. A few things stuck out to me. You've got such a long bio because you have so many accomplishments, but some of the things is that you do everything through faith, family, and you're a servant leader, and that was really awesome for me to read. And then, but on top of that, you've had a ton of exits. It looks like your first exit was in 2007, multiple exits. I think you just had a very recent one, but they've all been a pattern of home service and mainly like roofing industries.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for being on the show with me today, man.
Absolutely, Alan. Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be fun. I enjoy it, so it's gonna be fun.
It is, and, like I said, I'm a little under the weather today, so sorry to the guests that are used to my normal voice. It's kinda gone, and, disregard if you hear me blow my nose every now and again, but, just like anything else in business, we don't take sick days. We go to work, and we get things done, so the last thing I was gonna do was try to reschedule on you. Um this Business Ventures podcast, I really want to go into your entrepreneurial journey. This is meant for guests watching this that either want to go out on the limb and start their own business or want to scale their business and they may not know how. Uh, so, with your journey, where did it all begin? Was it in how did you grow up? Do you think it was instilled with you in childhood or is it something you came upon later in life?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I was raised so one half of my family was more in the country, right? So it's like my grandparents had a outhouse, and I was about 12. So I was raised with some pretty simple side of life. And then my mom's side of the family, my grandparents there were pretty well, off there, and he owned an insurance actual company. And so, like, I learned a little bit of both. I think the main thing that I learned about the entrepreneurial side was, my grandpa was like, he said, you can do anything you want to do, but own the garbage trucks. If you want to be a garbage man, own the garbage trucks. And I was like, that kind
Yeah.
of stuck with me most of my life. And so, yeah, that's kind of where it kind of got instilled. I started out on the roof with my dad. He was a sheet metal man and a roofer, and I tried every way I could to get out of it and to do something else, and it kind of pulled me back. So,
I love that. I saw on your bio you're a fourth generation roofer. There's not many of those out there.
yeah, man, it was my great grandpa. He was a tin man, so he put the original leaf on the Capitol in West Virginia, the gold leaf. It used to would just be copper, so he put the gold leaf on there. Then my grandpa, he was a carpenter slash roofer, and then my dad was, on the commercial and the metal side, but a roofer as well. And then, yeah, I fought hard to get out of it, and it kept bringing me back. So it's
Yeah,
one of
but I
those
mean,
it's one of those waves, man. So
yeah, growing up, like I did the same thing. I'm actually third generation, not a fourth. I mean, not that I know of, at least. I never got the opportunity to meet many of my great grandparents and my great grandfathers, but um, I tried to buck it and get out of the whole roofing industry early on, like in college days. And it's just what I think I realized is my father and myself are so much alike that he went through his whole life to find this industry. And so why am I discounting what he found? Why not just embrace it, right? It's probably a pretty good industry if that's the case. So was it how did your
yeah,
realization hit when you realized, well, this is probably where I should be stuck at?
so the roofing side really happened growing up, but it also happened like later on, after we were building houses and the housing market crashed. And I was a young kid. I really didn't know anything. I didn't know that I was lucky enough to survive that. But you kind of start looking and studying like what's going to be a recession proof way of doing things. And I sat down with my dad and my grandpa, and they're like, listen, like, roofing's where it's at. Like, we've never not put roofs on. It might be in a different, it might be metal or shingles or something else one day, but like, you got to like start to focus on where that you always have a career. And so being taught to work with my hands, and my dad was always like, hey, like, if you have a trade, you always got something to fall back on, right? You can always
Yeah.
get a job. You're always employable. And that was kind of the catalyst to being in roofing centric within like '07, '08, was just to go to roofing only. And so, yeah, that's kind of where the start for the roofing side began as far as like entrepreneurship and business wise. I mean, I was running my dad's crews at age 14 in the summer. So, like I was raised on the roof. Like I don't mean that like I'm not complaining or bragging at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like that's just what it was, man. I was 8 years
Life.
old. I was setting up ladders. I was cleaning up the ground. I was carrying stuff up the ladder to my, like it's just that's what we did, man. So
Yeah, it was and where was this at? So I know you're in Florida now, if you can't tell
yeah,
from the palm trees on the shirt, right?
man, yeah. So it was West Virginia. I was raised in like the southern part of West Virginia most of my life, and we stayed in that tri-state area until about 2015, and then I moved up to Morgantown, West Virginia, and we stayed there till
Okay.
2021, and then we moved to Florida. So
There you go. Yeah, my mom's side of the family is all West Virginia, so they're on
yeah,
the border of West Virginia and Kentucky, so they're in holler country and,
that's where I
uh
was raised at, right there. Yeah,
really, right there? I think,
yeah.
man, what's it called? It's, Matewan, I think is where they're
Matewan,
from?
but they're a little bit further south of Matewan, so that's the coal belt down there. I was a little bit more north, in Cabell County, Putnam County area. So
So did
so
you,
like
do a lot of cockfighting back then? I know that was one thing. I remember being like 8, 9 years old going to visit my mom's side of the family, and they had this trailer park that like all right there, and they were doing cockfights and all kinds of stuff. It was pretty interesting to see at that age, but yeah.
not confirm that I may or may not have seen that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we're not
we
here
were.
glorifying it. I'm not saying you should go do something like this, okay?
No, no. It was part of I mean, it was part of the culture. I was raised on a farm basically as well, so we had some sheep farming going on. A lot of the with the like we raised some crops and the tobacco and stuff like that. But I baled hay, so I guess I was farm boy strong. So like playing
There you
football, like
go.
I didn't have to lift weights, and we did well there. So yeah,
That's
but
nice. That's awesome. That's a really cool upbringing. And, you know, growing up, did you end up going to college or did you go right into that first business in 2001? How was that?
yeah, no, it's a great question. So had some offers to play some ball, some football offers, and we
There you go.
decided to enlist into the Marine Corps instead. So my dad smacked me in the back of the head. But so we did that. We came home after that, and I worked at like 84 Lumber and Lowe's for like 2 years. And then in '01 is whenever we really started into the building side of things. Yeah, so like I did a little bit of retail. Actually, I even worked at a rail car plant for like 9 months. I hated it. Like I didn't like being in a plant. I mean, it was great money, but like I didn't like working that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I that's kind of my journey, like high school, Marine Corps, straight into work again, and then back home and
Back home.
started
Yeah.
building houses. And we started out as a framing contractor for another big builder in West Virginia there, and then I wound up building my own spec houses and having some fun with that. So yeah, it was a
Wow.
good
Well,
time.
thank you for your service. I had no idea you were in the Marine Corps for a little bit. Right.
Yeah, little yeah, it was a short stint, but we were there for a minute. So,
It's still service, and that's still something to be committed, Especially it sounds like, the people around you weren't a big fan of that. So, when you say
not at
"we,"
all.
did you go with a brother, sibling, friends? You said, "We joined the Marine Corps." Is that, was there more to it?
No, no, it's myself. No, I have a habit of not using the word I and me. It's always us and we. So that's one of the things that we teach on is in leadership is us and we and not I and me. So
I
I
love
guess
that.
it
I
was
really love that.
myself that entered in. Yeah. So
Yeah. No, I definitely love that. I mean, those I, me stuff, you can't do anything on your own, even if it's
exactly.
something where it's completely on your own, it's at least you and God, right? You
Yep.
never did
It's
anything
always
on your
we.
own. You weren't created that way. So I love that.
Yeah. It's
Um,
always we. Yep.
so you did some odd jobs here and there when you got back, something you didn't really like, but was good money. And then you found home building and you started with framing. It's funny, framing is like it's one of the hardest parts of building a house, right? I mean, I've dabbled in some development, and I did have a short stint of commercial development there for a little while. And I remember framers; it was so hard to find good framers, hardworking framers, stuff like that. How was framing and how did that transition into doing the entire homes?
So I loved it on framing. Like if there's one thing that I had to do the rest of my life, it'd be just framing up
Oh, wow.
houses. Like that's my favorite thing. It was like it's a mental challenge as well as a physical challenge, and you can see the production every day. It's like something's going to happen. Um, so it was kind of a natural thing. So like, I was working at 84 Lumber and like the contractor services side. I decided, hey, I want to do something. I got my grandpa, he was still a carpenter and he was building houses. And I started a framing crew, and it was just me and two guys to get started. And we did pretty well, as far as just the framing sector for a lot of years. I got to where, like I didn't set trusses, I hand built everything as far as like all, just cutting in all the rafters. There's some fun stories with that too. But then I learned how to build like circle staircases that,
Oh,
like,
wow.
handmade circle staircases. So we got into some pretty niche stuff, and then started to build houses. Like '04, we were building some spec houses and stuff. And then like '07, it just like I would sell 30 and never have a footer in the ground. And then you get to '07, it's like, oh, it's like I'm sitting on five, and I've got like, like 10 other lots. And the developer there at the time was like, hey, he's like, I just want to buy, all of your stuff and I want to finish it out. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So, it sounds like a big exit. Like it was a lucky thing. Like I sold off all the properties and, you know, made a little bit of money off of selling everything, but he really just took over all the bank loans. And then
Hey,
I didn't have to file bankruptcy. It's
see
just
in '08.
stupid. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's stupid luck, man. Like I was a stupid kid, I had no idea. And I probably was taken advantage of at the time as far as what I sold the properties for, but
That's
somebody was
awesome.
looking out. Yeah,
Talk about,
yeah. So
selling high. You sold in 2007. So now I've talked to a lot of people about '07, '08 crisis, and it's funny, I wasn't aware when '07, '08 was going on that we were going
yeah,
through all this, or '09, because roofing, I was storm chasing at the time. I was actually in
yeah.
'07, and '08 in Minneapolis, going door to door selling roofs, right? After a big
Oh,
hailstorm hit. And I just, maybe it was my young age or something, and I just didn't realize what was going on. But, a lot of people that I've talked to said a lot of it started in '07, right? It was like the latter
right.
part of '07 when, prices started crashing and all that stuff happened. So for you to sell right before that happens, even if it's just a loan, those bank loans would have buried you,
It would have buried
from
me.
everybody I talked to in '08. So what a blessing, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, on my side it was. The other guy that bought it all out, I mean, which he already I mean, he had all of the properties and stuff. So, like, I feel sorry, but at the same time, like, it was dumb luck. I had no idea. Like, I was like, "You know what? Like, I made some money with this and, like, let's go do something else for fun." I actually took a job, like, for a year. I took on a project as a project manager for a big project. It was an $80 million project, and we came in under
Wow.
budget. But we built like with like some multifamily stuff. So I had bid on the job as the framing contractor, and then I wound up working for the company as the super slash project manager. And yeah, so like I sold the company. I went right to work with them for about a year and a half or so, and then just got right into roofing in '08. Like it was like this really weird transition, but yeah, stupid luck.
Wha
I mean, it was.
I'm already seeing a trend here though, like, not the stupid luck part, but, I think again, you're putting yourself in the right place. That's the trend that I'm seeing. It's like, so
Yeah,
after the military, you took that job at the lumber place, right?
yeah,
And you networked there. You didn't stay there very long for one reason or another, and you went straight into business development. Then you went
yeah,
or, building homes and framing. So it's like you're going from one to another, and then here you are framing, and then you get this opportunity for an $80 million project supervisor. That's for 80 million.
yeah.
It's a big project, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I learned a lot too because, I had put together I mean, I've done all aspects of construction up at that point, but, never had built like, 500, flats at one time. So it was pretty neat to kind of watch that go together and have 10 framing crews going at one time and, it was insanity, but it was fun to watch. Like, to watch all the pipe go in the ground and all the roads go in, and just throw these things up, man. It was fun. It was fun. It was definitely different.
Yeah. So, you know, that, "Hey, son, look at that property." That's probably one of my favorite parts about construction. "Hey, son, look, you see
Absolutely.
that property over there? I did that roof. You see that property over there? I built that." You know,
That's it. That's it.
and people have different names for that feeling
Mm.
of watching something get done and get completed and it lasts forever. So it sounds like an $80 million, "Hey, son, look at that property." Yeah, so that's a
Yeah.
good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I said that just because it was more fun, and like, the company I was working with, like, it was supposed to be a 2-year gig, and we got it done in right at 16 months. Like, we just
Wow.
killed it. And
Wow.
which we had a lot of good subs and a lot of that stuff too. But it was interesting because like I learned a lot about process, and like like they had a nice process and a Gantt chart and how to do these things. And I was watching like how things were going together. Like we could streamline this and overlap these three things, get these four contractors. Like you learn like how to build a process really really quick in that situation, because I mean every day is money. And so we came in under budget, so the budget was 100
Wow.
million, so we came in at 80 in 16 months. So
Oh,
that was fun to learn, like to have that as a P&L sheet, and watching all the contractors go, and making sure that OSHA stayed out and the DEP stayed out. Like it was rough, man. Like we had a retention pond where the it started to actually leak and collapse, and you had to get that
oh
built
boy.
overnight. So there was a lot of interesting things that I'd never been exposed to, that that helped me with crisis management, if you will, because
Yeah.
like everything was a crisis every day. So it was
That's been
fun.
a recurring thing of a lot of our episodes is crisis management. You know, entrepreneurs are able to not freak out when something goes wrong. It's like we kind of have to expect it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So okay, so you're done with this project and you're what is that, 6 months early done, and then what do you do next? Cuz if you're on this
Yeah.
project, you probably budgeted your time to be the full 2 years and you're done early. Did you get offered another job from that job, or that's when you entered the roofing ownership space, or how'd that go?
Yeah, so I wasn't an owner at that point, but I had the bug again already, right? So I sat on the
That itch,
sidelines about a year
right?
and a half, and yeah, yeah, you get the itch. I had the bug, and then uh, I went to work for a few like smaller roofing companies, kind of help them and to kind of learn, like like I just went in as a sales rep, just kind of learning some things from '08 to 2010. I think I worked for two or three guys. 2010, one of my friends now, I went to work for him for 2 years, as a sales manager and sales trainer. And then we kind of built some fun stuff. And then me and my wife decided to do like roof cleaning, soft wash, and exterior cleaning. And I went back and I was a sales rep for him. So I kind of quit being the sales manager and went into running my own business again. And then yeah, it's kind of just kind of went from there with it. So we built that up to I don't know, million and a half in soft wash and pressure wash, and I sold that to a company that I went to work for, and then we
Oh, okay,
helped
yeah.
build that company up too. So yeah, so it was one of those kind of like I worked for like three or four roofing companies, and then 2014, 15, I went to work at Shield Roofing as head of the company in biz dev, and I'd sold the soft wash company off then. So
Well,
yeah,
I can
so
tell
so it's fun.
you're very humble, right? I could tell from just meeting you a couple of times and talking to you, but I
Yeah,
do want to go deep into these successes. I mean, you run
appreciate
over
that.
this because again, because you're really humble and you don't like to, but you've had some amazing accomplishments. Even those first two companies when you started out, I think you said that was 2008 to 2010. You helped scale both of those through sales
Yeah,
and learning. So you go on and you chose to learn as opposed to lead, but you were able to make a big impact to take those companies from like 3 to 10 million to 2 to 8 million, I think it was in your bio.
yep,
Um, h- l- you know, I think some of my best lessons in life was being able to retroly look at your early years and identify why or how you were successful. So in
yeah.
those really early years, is there anything that you can define that you believe made you that successful?
All the failures. I mean, just knowing what not to do, right? Like, I think that helps a lot as you grow and like working beside people, for people, with people that were either above a line or under the line, and learning what not to do and what to do. And so I think that's the main attribute that I always try to pull out is, what's the lesson here, in everything. So I don't believe in problems; it's unsolved opportunities. And what's the lesson? So like when I started to approach life that way, like things got easier, less anxiety, less stress. I mean, you still got stress, you still got to work, you still got
Yeah.
to do everything. But when you look at a mess up as like as a success, like oh, I know not to do that again, right? And as long as the intentions are honorable, like I'm not out there trying to take money from somebody, like I think those things are their own problem. But like you're going to make mistakes, you're going to say something wrong, you're going to, as long as you own it, like I think everything's good. Like I think that's how you learn, is through the failures. So I think failure is the number one teacher,
There
through
we go.
everything. And if you don't have emotional intelligence to embrace it that way, it'll crush a lot of people. So you got to really just embrace it. It's like, hey, it's just part of the growing process. Like I was young, I was dumb, I had some dumb luck, but there's times when I was just dumb and I did some dumb things. You know what I mean? So
There you go. I mean, it's not just about the failure, it's looking at it and learning from it and then adapting. So it sounds like you were great at that. Now, going into being a salesperson and helping scale those and moving on to sales management, what what was it that you were good at then? Were you recruiting a ton of people for these companies? Were you a really good trainer? So where do you think your niche was when it came to your first taste of real leadership, I would say?
I think it was the process, right? So like I was able to develop processes because like that's the way my mind is driven. Because like I don't think I'm a good sales rep personally, like me just being a sales rep. And so nobody had a good system, a good process. And so when I was able to like build the process and just stick to a process, life became easier. The sales became easier. And so I looked at it more as a function instead of like anyway, so we built the process. Once you build a process, and then you can train somebody within that, then it's a lot easier to hold them accountable, to look at those things. I'd say '08, '09, I went to a Rodney Webb training, and that kind of changed the focus of, oh wow, like this is real good stuff. And then that's when I started to have a process, right?
Yeah.
And say, okay, this is important, and like, how do you do this? How do you sell a premium product? And so putting together the creative side of how do you put a package together, sound different, and not pitch the same thing as everybody else. And so we were able to do that. And then, and then just help everybody just dial in those SOPs and process. And once you can do that, then it's easier to hold sales reps accountable. It's easier to hold, anybody accountable, right? And people actually like that discipline. So,
Yeah. Wow. I so going from that, you switch to the soft wash, power washing stuff, right? It's kind of interesting. I've interviewed Brandon Vaughn and David Carroll, who both had these washing businesses. Now theirs was more window cleaning, exterior cleaning stuff, but that's
yeah.
how they were brought up. Was your washing business similar to those type of businesses, and how did you get exposed to that to begin with? If you're doing roofing, because I want to go back to your patterns of opportunity. It seems
Yeah.
like you're at a company, you meet somebody, or you see an opportunity and you jump. So how exactly did you figure that
Yeah.
out, and what exactly was it?
So I always wanted to have multiple tools in the toolbox. And as a sales rep selling a roof, and only product I could do was a new roof, it didn't feel good with the homeowner, right? It doesn't feel genuine. So we started looking around like, well, what's some other things that you can do? Well, soft wash was one of them, of course, and you mix that with repairs. This was prior to rejuvenation becoming a thing, which is like stage three of my life in 2019, eight or in 20. But like we wanted to do something that was different to like help homeowners, not have to replace their roofs. And so we started to get into the soft wash side. So it was really the roof soft wash. It was full exterior cleaning, but really it was mainly the roof soft wash stuff. I took what I learned and some of the storm chasing I had done. And again, like during that time, I was building that business and I was a sales rep, for a roofing company. So like I was still selling and working storms and all this other stuff, but I had another product to actually sell, and I was like, the light went off. I'm like, oh, like they don't need a new roof, but I'm already here. I've already knocked the door. I'm going to sell them this, right? You know, what I mean, I'm going to sell my repair and this, and the company I was working for, they didn't want to do repairs or soft wash stuff. So I was like, well, I'll take those on if it's not, So it's kind of a balance, right? To kind of figure out like, do I sell this side or this side? But so we wound up, just doing what was right with the homeowner. If they didn't have any damage and they really didn't need a new roof, like we would try to soft wash it and then repair it. So
I love that. I really love that. We've talked on this show, and I've talked with many salespeople, sales leaders, stuff like that. And there's a reoccurring theme, and it's if you truly believe in what you're selling, you're going to be amazing at selling it. Nobody's going to stop you because there's no excuse not to do it. There's no rebuttal. There's no
great.
true rebuttal. So it's just how do you express that? So you're at this point where you don't necessarily believe in selling a brand new roof to somebody who doesn't need a brand new roof. So you're selling them
Yeah.
something that they actually need. I love that.
Yeah. That's where the desire of it came from, was like, how do you do the right thing? Because like, and you're putting all this time and energy and money into knocking on doors and marketing and being in front of people, and so that's where we started to like. I hate knocking on doors, to be honest. Like I don't know anybody that's not a psycho that does like it, and I mean that in the most affectionate way. But
Yeah.
like I love helping people, so like we started to build our own ways of knocking on doors and having a reason to be there. And when you're getting your leads, and like we'd go run a storm. I ran a storm in 2017 where we were a month and a half late, and we wound up cleaning it up, right? Because we took a soft watch approach. We were customer service. I'd go in, I would knock on their door and say, hey, listen, I'm not here to sell anything. I'm sure you've seen, a bunch of guys. I just want to make sure I'm parked okay. I'm getting ready to meet with somebody down the street. And I did that to one house like 20 times. You know what I mean? And finally,
Yeah.
like a month and a half later, they're like, hey, like I've seen you more than my actual sales rep. He signed and left. I haven't seen him in 6 weeks. Goes, I want to go with you guys. Well, hey, listen, I don't get involved in that. Like, you've already signed a contract. He goes, well, we kind of signed a contract, but I don't know. And so, like, it becomes a weird position, right? Because the storm chaser guys, like, they get mad because you're knocking on their door. But I literally would never try to sell a roof doing that. I was just trying to have good customer service. Like, hey, I should make sure I'm parked okay. Is this a good
Yeah.
spot? I'm gonna be in the neighborhood. I just want, I see you got a roofer. I don't want to bother you. I mean, like we were totally opposite of it. But 6 weeks later, we just got flooded with everybody in the in these neighborhoods, and it was interesting. Like we did it by accident, but it taught us a real lesson of like, like a lot of these guys are just lazy. They'll get out there and knock doors,
Yeah.
but by the time you got these guys that are, and I'm not against it, right? Like when you think of the 10-50-50 split type of thing, like once these guys get their 20 or 30 deals, they're lazy. Like
Yeah.
they give up. Like they've made their money and they're done. But when you just keep going, you keep knocking on these doors for no other reason but to be courteous, like they wound up liking you. And so like we put in the hard work. We just did the work that nobody else wanted to do. So we wound up cleaning the house and in that storm. So it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, people just go through and grab that low hanging fruit and then they're
Yep,
done. And they're
that's
lazy.
it.
Exactly. Entitlement, laziness, it all sets in and it's bad. It's funny you talk about that because I think I can't remember who I was on a podcast. There was a guest on a podcast recently, and they were talking about retail versus storm restoration. And I was like, it's
Yep.
really tough for me, somebody who sold storm restoration for years and years, to go somewhere in the country that I know is going to get hail or wind within the next few years and sell them a $20,000 roof. I don't know if I can morally, ethically do that because it becomes challenging, you know? So that was my biggest opponent to it, and I never ended up doing retail roofing sales before I exited my roofing company, so it's hard for me to coach on it and train on it, you know?
Yeah.
Did you ever find those challenges, or is that part of the soft wash, all of that?
So we have
Or what part of the
always
country were
used.
you in? Maybe that would help too. It's like, is this all still West Virginia, or are you in Florida now?
Yeah, no, it's Northeast and Florida. So Florida happened around 2018. Well, actually 15, and then we were active in 17, 18. But like, so yeah, so working two different markets. I worked a lot of storms. Um, we kind of got tired of even back then of the rat race with the adjusters and everything else. We developed our own version of retail. Where we were financing a lot of these jobs, and we still teach it and train it as far as like flip the script on things, right? Because like it's cool to be a storm catcher. That's what I've always tried to try to train guys on. Because even after the storm, the people that don't get their roofs done, they're still going to need the roof done, even if it's outside of that claim area. Because that's what's going to happen is they didn't get it done, so now the roof is leaking. So somebody has to take care of it, right? So the way that we look at the claim side is, have the conversation with the homeowner, ACV, RCV, whatever the numbers come in at with the deductible changes in every place you go. But let's say it's a $20,000 job and they're going to take 18 grand, but me to do a retail job is 25. So we flip it like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that you got that much money. Right? Like, let's take the $18,000, put it in your pocket. I'll give you 18 months of no interest, no payment on the entire amount. Or I've even got a 5 year for 6.9 to really help you, just get through this crisis. And like that way, it's still no out of pocket, right? Right at the table. And so we flipped a lot of people that way, and then they wound up fighting the insurance company on their side. We didn't have to on our side, and life got a lot easier. I mean, on the contractor side, because I no
Yeah.
longer had to like fight the fight. We would recommend a public adjuster or attorney and stuff like that afterwards,
Yeah.
but it becomes a cost incurred. And so what we found was when we were doing that and they were signing these contracts, a lot of these attorneys were getting the full retail contract approved
Yep.
because it became a cost incurred because of an actual invoice, and
Yep.
there was money that had changed hands, and so it actually helped a lot of the attorneys that we worked with and PAs because they were getting it paid at full retail value. But the homeowner wasn't out of pocket anything until later.
Yeah, because
So
they financed it. There you go. Yeah, I
yeah,
really like that, and there's actually ways to recover interest too. So,
absolutely,
yep,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, definitely. So that's a cool way to look at it. So as you were growing, throughout this journey, you're storm chasing all over the Northeast, was it correct?
Yeah, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, kind of in those areas. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, good storm areas, right? So, I
yeah,
think I've worked all the way up into the Northeast, and I think a lot of that depends on what market you're in, right? Because some of those areas only ever get hit once, right? Once every 20,
yeah.
30 years.
That's
So it's
it.
a little bit different. They have to pay out of pocket for roofs in between those storm years. So what happened next? So you sold the soft wash business to the business that you went to go work for. How was that life transition? Where did that lead you to?
So we went there and started the biz dev side. It was actually the first like iteration of flipping from insurance to retail. It was a company that was mainly insurance. They had 11 sales reps doing $4 million, and the first day in there, like you wind up interviewing everybody, and we fired everybody but one person, and we started over with four guys and went and did 7 million the first year with four guys because we flipped from insurance to retail because they'd already built a decent name, a good company, like it was the well-known brand in West Virginia. But we just had the wrong culture. Like everybody was against everybody else, and like this like there was nobody pulling in the same area in the direction to get everything done. So we wound up getting rid of most of the sales reps and started over. It went straight to retail. And it was different. It was hard. The owners thought I was crazy at first, and then after the first 3 months, like, oh, this is working. And so we wound up doubling sales, well, almost the double with half of the people. We're down to five reps instead of 11.
Wow.
and did 7 million the first year. So that was fun, and it was really about the process. It was really about the training. It was really about just getting the buy-in. And sometimes those band-aids are hard to pull off. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
go, but sometimes it's the best growth that you'll see. So.
So why did you decide that model for yourself? So it's funny you say those things because I can relate. And you mentioned earlier watching people where they only got like one third of the jobs, the low hanging fruit, but the longer you stayed, the more you make those relationships. So I noticed that when I first started my company in New Mexico, and we actually stayed instead of turning and burning, going there for 6 or 9 months and leaving. And the second year, we did more sales than the first year. So
Yep.
did you have an experience like that? And that's what you said, no, I'm going to go build this brand? Or did you just theorize it? Or did it just come up because you were just trying to build a brand?
So the answer is yes, but it was building the brand, but it was more like just it's dumb luck, right? It's like me just thinking back on like when I was working storms and what worked was consistency, and being there when everybody else was gone. And so, people that's never been through a storm, like if you're a homeowner and you're listening out there, it's really, really tough, right? So one of the things that we would do to like make, which we made all the storm guys mad, and this will make you mad, Alan, but we would tell homeowners, and we ran our own propaganda campaigns of, hey, don't sign anything, make sure you get a bid from everybody, right? And so
Yeah,
we would push the whole bid thing because all the storm guys didn't want to bid, and no offense, but most of them didn't know how to bid. They didn't know how to
exactly.
do an actual estimate, and so make sure that they get in the attic space, they get in the crawl space. Like we built this whole silver platter of like this is what they need to be looking at and see how it affected everything. And so we literally got in the crawl spaces, the attic space, on the roof, around the house. Like, we still knew how to document damage, but our whole conversation was geared towards don't sign anything. And we didn't sign any of the contingencies in 2017 at all. We did it all on handshakes. And we still wound up keeping like 90% of those deals because everybody was forcing them to sign contingencies. And then they would hear the horror story of their neighbor signed one, and then they tried to enforce a 20% thing. And like all these stories just start to happen, and you just lean into them like, hey, listen, like that's why that we didn't make you sign anything because we had this trust.
Yep.
And it was a very interesting thing because the storm chaser guy, I mean, I got some death threats I mean,
Oh,
to be
yeah.
honest, like, they were not happy with me. And it was interesting because they're like, "What are you doing? Like, why would you tell the people to get a bid?" And like, because that's our business model.
'Cause they need to. If you don't know how to bid it, you
And
don't know roofing. Yeah.
yeah, if you can't repair it, you shouldn't be on the roof. And so we would talk of that too. That's when the whole repair mentality really came to the front and was in charge. Hey, listen, like
Yeah.
you might not need a new roof, and that's where we started the conversation, especially with wind damage. Listen, I don't know if you even need a new roof. Let me go see
Yeah.
if we can repair it. And
Yep.
everybody else saying, "No, I'll buy you a new roof and I'll get it done and I'll make sure
Fight,
you
fight,
get
fight.
top dollar. You'll get top
Maximize
dollar."
flame.
Uh, And,
Maximize.
and, and all I hear is, "I'm going to make myself a whole lot more money on your insurance policy." And so,
Yeah.
not saying that it's not true that real claims are there and that you should be filing claims. I'm not saying that at all, but it's the conversation that you have with a homeowner
Goes into
that
the process. It goes
that
into the
goes into the
process,
process.
right?
Yeah,
It's
and
pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, and
exactly.
look, going back to my earliest days of '07, but I was around the industry a lot before then, so I do remember a lot of just being in training classes of like 50, 60, 100 sales reps at a time. And with these earlier companies before the rapid expansion of the industry, I think the rapid expansion of the industry happened about 15, maybe 20 years ago. And I think it's right towards the end and you're about to see a contraction. But everybody thought they could do something better. So what I saw slowly started happening is different sales reps, sales leaders, sales managers would leave after a few years and go start their own company. And laziness and entitlement. It's like that game of telephone, right? With every new company and new salesperson that popped up, they got worse and worse and worse and they cut shortcuts and all this. So who I got when I first got trained, I was blessed to be with a big organization, pay attention, learn, and we did. We got in the attics. We gave everybody everybody an estimate. Now, our estimate may not be the price that your insurance company pays, so we'll drop our price to match the insurance proceeds, and then we will try to get them up to ours. Like, but you always better have a price, right? And then there's always just the
100%.
fact of sell against, right? Differentiate yourself. You got to differentiate yourself. And so if everybody's saying no estimates, and hey, get an estimate. That's weird because you need to know your numbers like the back of your head. If you don't know what your material cost is and your labor cost is before you're knocking on that door, like I can tell you that's a 35 square roof. I'm paying a buck 25 for labor and I'm paying a buck 75 for material and I want 30% margin. So work it backwards. Here's your number. Press hard 3 copies. Like it's not hard. You should know that
Yeah.
if you're going to be a good salesperson, you know?
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
agree with that. I think that's
don't get me on
where.
a rant.
No, man, no. I appreciate that. I'm the same. Uh, uh, yeah, I'm the same mentality as that because like when you really think about and I think it's true on retail and in this side. But one thing you said here, so I do want to circle back. I do think that the industry is getting ready to consolidate. I don't, I think you're still going to have the same amount of roofs, but it's going to be harder to compete. I think insurance companies, like I don't know this for a fact, but it's like, where did all this money just come from? I sold my company, right? So, but where does this money come from? And you start seeing consolidations of Home Depots and SRSs and all these companies coming together. Like I think the direct repair programs are coming. I think that insurance companies are going to buy their problem away. So I think the gold mine's done. Like I think you got to learn how to adapt to it. I still think
Yeah.
like there's still some of the plain states where you're always going to have hail. I mean, with your point, like I don't know how you can retail sell something in St. Louis, Missouri every year when they get a hailstorm every 3 years. Like I think that's still a tough retail market. But I think that's kind of like the one sliver in the country, east of the Mississippi. Like I still think it's sporadic enough. Even in Florida, like the building codes are so strict and which I like. I like the building codes are going up. Like after watching Hurricane Ian and seeing these little tiles or these little missiles flying off the roof and just like destroying everything, it's like you should raise building codes. So like as building codes raise and as insurance companies pay less, like I think you got to learn to finance. I think you got to learn to become a hybrid version of what used to be storm chasing.
Yeah.
It's no longer AOBs to be signed here at least, no longer with contingencies. You have to give a good faith estimate up front. So I think that a lot of these primary like factors and business practices are coming to the top again. And I think that it's time to start thinking differently.
Yeah. I love business. I just love watching it. Like I loved watching that expansion phase and I love watching this contraction phase and theorizing on what's going to happen. It's pretty cool. And, I do think we know. What do we know? We know storms happen. We know roofs need to be replaced. I think if roofers quit getting concerned about who paid for it, and
Yes,
start analyzing the problem and be adaptable and have, like you said, be hybrid. So
that's it.
it's
You have to.
look, if this roof needs to be replaced, did it get enough hail to where it needs to be replaced? Did it get enough wind to where it needs to be replaced? Well, then it needs to be replaced. And then you can start worrying about that. But you know, it, and again, it's you've got to be adaptable, and you're not just adapting to the climate of affairs in the country and in your state, but to the property owner. You know, when we first started out, we were insurance specialists because it was a white glove approach where all the local guys didn't know hail or storms because we're going to a
Yep.
market that's never had it. And so they didn't know how to meet with insurance companies and they didn't know what Xactimate was, read insurance paperwork. So that's why we got a lot of jobs. So I think saying, no, I don't do anything with insurance, that's bad too, because especially if you want high end, if you're a multimillionaire living in a multi-million-dollar house, you don't want to have to do all of this stuff yourself. You want somebody to have that white glove approach, but it's about being hybrid and being able to adapt and do what that customer needs in a market that helps you brand, scale, grow, and lock down. I look at it as put those walls up, start digging that moat, right? So in business, I like to use terms like moats and walls and differentiators to be that contraction. And you're going to see companies get gobbled up or companies grow rapidly. And again, it's just get that brand, create that identity, and grow from there. Do repairs, do good work. That DRPs,
I love
jump on DRPs. They are coming. You may have to what people don't understand is you may have to do a subset of your business and divisionalize them or open a whole new business for it. So like when we started MRP, the first thing that Allstate or when we started Mad Sky, the first thing that Allstate and Liberty Mutual was, oh, this Mad Sky roofing is not a good thing. You got to close that down. So, the MRPs and DRPs, they don't want to see that you're a storm chasing roofer if it's that model. So a lot of stuff to plug in there, but maybe we need to have more of those discussions because I enjoy talking about it with you. But I want to dig a little bit deeper into where you were at. So you were at the Shield, and then I see MHI pop up and Ugly Roof pop up.
Yeah,
And it looked all about that same time. It was it, or how did that happen?
yeah. So at Shield, I stayed until 2019, and I was a managing partner. So
This
at
is
the end of that,
Florida now, correct?
well, no, this was West Virginia. So we had expanded to 5 locations at Shield. So we were in
Oh wow.
Pittsburgh, Morgantown, Charleston, Huntington. We're in, and then here in Florida. And I held the Florida license and stuff. So we got to the end of that run there in 19. I decided to part ways. I mean, it was all good and amicable. I mean, everything was fine there. I took my profit share and I moved on. I didn't have ownership, and that's what I wanted to get back to. And so I was able to buy in at MHI with my business partner Ty, and we kind of started in 2019, like May or June of 19, and started to build things out, just put the processes in place. The cool thing walking in there was nothing like, most other companies along the way. It's like like you got to get rid of half the people because the culture's bad. Man, I walked in there with like phenomenal culture. It's like, how do I like I felt like I was behind, right?
Yeah.
How do I add more to this? And so a lot of credit there and hats off to the Ty. But so we started in 19, just starting to build things. And we I had already had the idea of ugly roof and roof rejuvenation and things to bring with me. And so him and I started really brainstorming on that. And the best time to open up any new business is right in the middle of COVID, right? So we started that in
Yeah,
2020,
of course.
which we started it prior to COVID hitting, but we actually came to Florida and did some market testing with Ugly Roof and MHI side, and we were building out the roofing side. And one thing that I found is, so like, to kind of just talk about the Ugly Roof business model, was we thought in the beginning, like, to entrepreneurs out there, like, your vision, your thought, what you think is going to happen might not happen, right? So we thought that and our product is phenomenal, but we thought the idea to the market was to go direct to consumer as Ugly Roof. So we were going to set up these little branches of just Ugly Roof and just sell just rejuvenation to homeowners and repairs. Well, we were over on the East Coast in Florida, in the Lantana area, and what we found was that homeowners didn't respond well to that. So we started to look at it. Okay, so why are we selling so much of this on under the MHI brand? Well, it's because you go in there and you're a certified, trusted local roofing company. And so I had multiple options. I could repair it, I could rejuvenate, I could replace it. But when I was just as a rejuvenation company, I could just rejuvenate it. And if I'm just a roofing company, I could just roof it, right? I wouldn't repair it or rejuvenate it. Or like that was the moment of clarity of like, oh, this is it. Like, you have to give the homeowner an option. So we developed a new sales process around this, the repair versus replace mentality. And then everything that we did was just hey, like, let's look to try to repair this first, knowing that probably 90, well, let's say 80% of the time it's not repairable, right? But we were looking to try to repair it. And so you wind up training guys a lot easier on inspections because, we were playing those numbers of like, 75 to 80% of the time it's not repairable. But we're looking to try to repair it. And so you set the homeowner at ease. And so this whole sales process just exploded immediately. and we just, we took it by storm, no pun intended, and it was just, it was great. And so it was well received with homeowners. So,
I
so that's
love
kind
that.
of where the Ugly Roof thing came in, and then we made it its own thing. And now Ugly Roof only works with roofing contractors. We sell to
Uh,
roofing contractors because we know the integrity of that for the homeowner is that if they can't, repair and rejuvenate it, they're going to replace the roof. So at the end of the day, I don't think that every roof is rejuvable, or even repairable. Like, we're roofers first,
yeah.
so we want to make sure that we're giving the homeowner the correct diagnosis and prescription, and not just trying to sell one product. So it's a three-lane approach now instead of a one lane approach. So
No, I love it. It's also a much better business model when you do things that way. So it's people understand first party versus third party sales organizations and how much more expensive it is to build out a first party sales organization than to utilize third parties. So it's like selling one to one or selling one to many. So when you think of it that way, and if you're a manufacturer, because that's essentially what a Ugly Roof is you manufacture the
yeah,
product, and then
yep,
you use roofing companies as your supplier. Now they do sales and supply and production and all of it. It's you reach the masses faster. Now,
yep,
as you expand, I wonder where that goes, right? Does that go individually? I know I've talked to major manufacturers of roofing materials, and they're trying to shift their marketing to go back to B2C. So
yep.
so do you grow eventually to a point to where you become B2C, or do you stay? I know one thing for Ugly Roof is you've got my favorite name out of all of them, my favorite brand out of all of them. There are more popping up,
Yeah.
but Ugly Roof, it just makes sense. Now, I didn't realize it till you said trying to sell a roof. If you knock on the door, you got one ugly roof. Like that's probably not the best pitch, right? I didn't even think about that. You said it didn't
Well,
work out so well. Yeah, I guess you're knocking on the door. Hey, you got one ugly roof. I'm actually with Ugly Roof.
well, we made a bunch of like marketing campaigns, and Brad Akers can tell you about this too because it failed miserably. It wasn't Brad's fault; it was my fault. But we were doing like ringless voicemails and like a bunch of stuff prior to AI, and we were reaching out to homeowners, and like the overwhelming result back was, "Who wants an ugly roof?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like we're like, exactly, that's why that we're here. And so
We're
like,
here.
so we've leaned into it. We actually got a bunch of some cornball with commercials about that. Like I'm talking on the phone to homeowners. It was really an experience that was real. Like, we were talking to people, and like, I don't know, it was interesting because it was like, who wants an ugly roof? We're like, exactly. That's
Yeah.
why they're here. So we leaned into it, right? But
Did it ever cross your mind to buy Pretty Roof? Like maybe.
So yeah, we went through a bunch of different iterations of like, what do we want to do? But like, the one thing about it, the one thing I learned about brand and branding, and like, if you ever read like Story Brand, right, and building a brand, like, is you have to be different. It has to be rememberable. Everybody remembered it. Whether it had a negative connotation or a positive connotation, nobody's going to remember Pretty Roof, but everybody remembers Ugly Roof. And
Yeah.
like, when we go to conferences and stuff, it's like, there's the ugly guys. Like, so we're the ugly guys, and we just lean
Oh,
into it.
yeah.
It's so much fun. But anyway, so like, that's part of Ugly Roof side. I mean, there's more to come there on Ugly Roof. We got some other products that's coming out. It's gonna be fun. But the main thing that we have there at Ugly Roof is really, like, of course, is the juice, but it's really the training process. So we have a sales training process, a presentation that goes with the dealerships, that we teach the guys how to like flip, into this repair and replacement mindset. And that's really the biggest thing that we have. So the biggest problem that you have is trying to get people to sell your product. So we kind of did a reverse engineer of that. It's like, let's teach you how to sell every product, not just
There you
ours.
go. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if you sell a new roof on a HOA for 5,000 squares, I'm totally ecstatic about that. Like, let's go celebrate that. It's not just about selling our product, right? It's about doing the right thing with the homeowner or the property owner at that time. And so that's the mentality that we took. And so, we haven't scaled like we thought it would, but we have scaled. We
Yeah.
we we grow and grow every year, and most of the guys give like they understand the messaging and it's helped their businesses, grow and scale with it. So
Yeah, from the outside looking in, it looks like you've scaled pretty fast, some hyper growth. But I guess it's always hard to meet your own expectations, especially after you've seen success and you've been
yeah,
successful multiple times. You're always going to raise that bar, which is a good entrepreneur does that. I will say, if anything, you're a victim to what we talked about earlier: lazy roofers, lazy sales reps, entitlement, things like that.
it,
It's like
it
going
is.
out and trying to motivate them to go to sell. I think you're on the right track with training them, and it's really simple. It's like, "Okay, let me show you. Let's train you how to sell every product and how to do it right and how to do it with intention." And I don't see a lot of great moral training out there, and I see that relation from you selling the soft wash and the repairs. Like, guys, not everything is, let's find exactly what this width and height is of the color scheme of this shingle because there's a scuff over here and the insurance company is going to pay $45,000 for this. And it's just, come on, guys, come on. Like, seriously, fix the one damn shingle. Nobody's going to be able to tell, or spray it with Ugly Roof and make it last 15 more years. Like, let's be
I
reasonable.
agree.
I think it's time we operate within reason and moralities when it
Uh,
comes to construction and roofing and sales, you know?
I agree with that 100%, Alan. Yeah, yeah, that's probably one of my most favorite thing is it has to be integrous, right? So, and the homeowner can feel that and sense that, and so I mean, the key to the success at MHI was that, like, we went in smelling different. Like, we
Yep.
tried to find a repair, knowing numbers are on our side to do a new roof. Listen, like here's the deal. Like, as a roofing company, if I only sell repairs and rejuvenation, like, I'm not going to be able to stay in business, even though the profit's a lot. But you've got all this overhead that you have to run, and you need
Yeah.
cash flow, so you have to sell new roofs. And so I think understanding that and being able to get down into the P&L sheets with guys, help them understand, like, this is an EBITDA lift on your company to be able to offer repairs and rejuvenation, but it's
Yep.
not going to operate the company. Like, you still need big cash flow to be able to pay off other things. And so, like, us understanding that and going through those growth pains and finding those right targets, like, really helps guys grow and scale now. And it's fun to watch when the light bulbs go off. I love light bulb moments. Like, that's
Yeah.
the fun part of the industry. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So what's next? You just sold MHI, right? You still got Ugly Roof, or was that packaged with it, or is that still
No, Ugly's still there. We got some other fun things to come with it. So we sold in January of what 24, and
Yep.
then so I stayed on for 15 months as the chief operating officer of Florida to get to get everything stabilized, all the operational efficiencies. We got everybody in service titan. My last day, I don't know when this podcast will go out, but my last day was like last week. So as the operating officer for Vertex, wonderful company. It was great. It was a great run. We
Yep.
kind of knew that it would sunset after 15 to 18 months. And so just on to the next thing. So we've got a couple of fun things coming. The main thing is the consulting side and working with some manufacturers and some suppliers to kind of help other roofers and other the contractor scale, and just kind of help them with with all the hard questions, right? Of what I got to do next. It's like, well, you got to work harder, but does that really mean anything, right? So yeah. So the main thing about what we're wanting to do is about leadership and is about culture. Because at at the end of looking how MHI was, everything was about the culture. Um, we had a culture that everybody on our team would run through the wall to get something done. Everybody. And we had this fun peer pressure. It wasn't bad pressure; it was good peer pressure. We had this program that we call AEP, which is Attitude, Effort, Performance, and we would grade each other, every 6 months, like it's a anonymous peer-to-peer grade of everybody. And so it created this fun little pressure, like, oh, like if I don't say something that's true, kind, or helpful, like, I might get a bad grade. And so
Yeah.
you develop by not by force, but a force multiplier of your peers, like, voting on you. Like, it changed, like, how people reacted and responded at work, and it was a really awesome thing to see. And so we're trained in that now too. It's like, how to be a better leader, how to build that culture, how to grade on their attitude, their effort, and performance, and stuff like that now. So
No, I love that. I mean, if your success is predicated off of these other organizations, make those other organizations better, right? So,
that's it.
uh,
That's it.
it's pretty simple, and it's such a servant leadership thing to do, and and it's probably rewarding in its own right to be able to help these people grow and watch those companies grow. You may be a small growth, but they're going to be a huge growth, and that's going to be awesome. Well, I don't know if you've watched our show or anything like that in the past, but we do have this part at the end called "Who is the smartest entrepreneur?"
Oh boy.
And this is kind of a takeaway from old school "Who Wants to Be a Millionaire," where it's multiple choice questions. You get these multiple choice questions, and you do get a couple lifelines. Who is the smartest entrepreneur? Cue the music, you know.
Okay.
But so what I did, that's why I needed your bio. You may have
Uh
wondered, like, "Why does he need my bio before this?" So I take your bio and I throw it into AI, and then
oh
AI
man.
gives me 5 multiple choice questions derived from your life.
Oh
And
man.
yep, yep. And so you get 2 lifelines, you get 50-50 and phone a friend. You only get to use one of them because we only have 5 questions.
Okay.
All right.
50-50 or phone a friend. Okay.
50-50. You don't have to use them, but
Yeah, there are right and wrong answers. That's the worst part of it.
yeah, yep, yep. Well, I get to pick all of it. My goal is for you to do bad because that's just gotta make it challenging, right?
I love it. I love it.
So in leadership circles, which animal is often used as a metaphor for charging into adversity rather than avoiding it? Is it a cow? Is it B, a buffalo? Is it C, an elephant? Or D, a ram?
This is one of my favorite subjects too that we talk about a lot. So it's not the cow. I can tell you that. Like I can tell you the story about that. But it's the buffalo.
It's the buffalo. That's you 100%. Final answer.
Final answer.
All right, you got it. I have seen AIs giving some softball throws to everybody but Nick Perret. AI
Oh yeah,
and
Nick
Nick
got him
Perret.
though.
Ooh, they gave him some tough questions. So it's the buffalo.
I love
Yep.
it.
Now
I
tell us
love it.
about that. You said you got a story on that.
We train on this a lot. Like if you watch any of our content,
Yep.
it's really about that. Is about running into the storm. And when you think about the buffalo versus the cow, this is an old Indian kind of story. But like if you've been in the plains and these big tornadoes and big things that come through, but the cows run away from the storm, and so the storm's chasing them. So by the time that the storm catches them, they're tired, they're worn out. The hail just beats them up, and like you lose half of the livestock, right? Well, buffaloes turn and run straight into the storm. It's kind of like a sea captain. That if there's a big storm coming and they can't go around it or they can't outrun it, they'll turn and go straight into the storm and they'll hit friction with friction. So that's about leadership. That's about how you thrive through storms. Or like in the book that we wrote, right? Like to thrive
Yeah.
through storms. It's all about that. So I love the Buffalo story.
I love
So
that. Yeah, I actually heard that from Josie first, Josie Parks. He told me about
oh,
that
cool.
recently, and that's our new theme for Win the Storm this year it's the storm inside. So we're kind of
Mm,
rebranding and changing that whole organization and all of this to it's not about going storm chasing and winning that hailstorm or windstorm and being the number one contractor making the
love
most
that.
money. No, it's about how do we take all of these people and show them how to beat the storm inside themselves and get through adversity
Mm.
and follow the
That's got a
follow
special place in my heart. I love that. Yeah,
yeah, maybe we need to
that's
talk and see if we can get you involved with it then. So
all
what
right. Let's.
percentage of businesses typically fail within the first 5 years? Is it A, 20%, B, 35%, C, 50%, or D, 70%?
I'm going to go with D 70. I think it's higher than
70.
that, but
You sure that's your final answer?
that's my final answer.
Uh, so, okay, let me preface this with I've always said 98%. And I think it was according to the BBB, 98% fail within the first 2 years. But this is 5, and this one says it's 50% according to US Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Is it
Um,
contracting or is it
it's all
all business?
businesses. It's all
Okay,
businesses.
all right,
That's probably where
okay.
it got you.
That's fair.
So I
That's
would have said
fair.
the same thing. I would have got it wrong too, right? And I've
Yeah,
pitched for
that's
years.
fair.
98% of contractors fail within the first 2 years. So you need to choose a company like myself who's been around for 25, you know?
Yeah,
So, all right.
I love it. I love it.
Move on to number 3. Which biblical book is traditionally known for its short wisdom-based verses on leadership, discipline, and life? Is that Psalms? Is that Ecclesiastics? Is that Proverbs? Or is that Job?
That is going to be Proverbs.
Proverbs, 100%. Final answer.
Final answer.
Final answer.
Mm.
There you go. You got it. So again, what are these softballs? You know?
Yeah, man. So that's one of my favorite books in the Bible too, and we have a
Yeah,
Proverbs challenge. So if you went to my website, that's probably what it pulled it from.
that's what it
So like,
did.
yeah, yeah,
Usually I
yeah. That's one of
copy
my
and
favorite things.
paste the
Yeah,
the bio,
bio.
but yours, I just took the link to your website and I said
Oh,
derive it
nice.
from his website and it
I love
scanned
it.
your entire website. So it was pretty cool. So
I
now
love it.
you're in AI now. So now they've got all your information. You're welcome. Oops.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move on to the next one. So, what's one psychological trait most strongly coordinated with long term leadership success? Is it charisma? Is it grit? Is it intelligence? Or is it humor? This is a tough one.
Man, this is a rough one. Would you read it again?
Okay. What's one psychological trait most strongly correlated with long term leadership success? Is that charisma? Is that grit? Is that intelligence? Or is that humor?
Let's do a 50-50 here. I'll take a lifeline here. Let's do a 50-50.
All right. We are getting rid of intelligence and humor. So it's going to come
Oh,
down to
wow.
charisma or grit.
Well, that was both of my guesses.
So yeah,
So
you're
charisma or grit. So I mean, you gotta have grit because you gotta you gotta just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. But the charisma is how you're gonna get people to follow you, and
hey, that
like
dumb
being
luck.
not too
That's
charismatic.
charisma, right? People like you.
That's dumb luck, man. Wow, man. Ah. So neither one of those were my choice. So let's go with charisma.
Charisma. Final answer.
Final answer. Let's go.
Ah,
Oh, it's
grit.
grit.
It's
Yeah,
grit.
yeah, makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah. I think I could make an argument for all four of them, to be honest,
yeah, I
humor,
agree.
grit,
Yeah,
charisma. All right. So you're two for four right now. So you're batting 50-50.
yeah.
Okay. So we are number 5. What's the historical origin of the phrase don't guess? Is it
Huh.
military aviation? Is it engineering principles? Is it software development? Or is it no clear origin? Hmm.
No idea. It's part of my book title. I should know this. I'm gonna feel really bad. Uh, yeah, that's interesting. One more time, just read the question.
All right. What is the historical origin of the
Historical origin.
phrase don't guess? Is it military aviation, engineering principles,
Uh,
software development, or no clear origin?
I think there's no clear origin. Yeah, I don't think there's a clear origin.
Is that your final answer?
I don't like the way you looked at me at that time. I'm starting to read your body language. You're like, no,
Remember,
you're
don't
wrong, John.
trust me. You can't trust me.
Yeah, you're a salesman. That's right. I can't trust you. Final answer D. Let's go with
There
that.
you
No
go.
clear
You got
origin.
it. You got it.
All
You
right.
got it. 3 out of 5. Good
Awesome.
job.
Awesome, man. That's
Well,
awesome.
now the
Man up for
origin
himself.
is your book. We're
Yeah,
gonna teach it to start saying your book is the origin. But
I appreciate that.
but
Yeah, that's
yeah,
good.
remember, because I don't want you to do well at these. I want these questions to be tough. It's funnier that way when you get them wrong, and I get to say, you know.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, that's good. That's
Alright, well,
awesome,
if
man.
anybody's watching this and they wanna get a hold of you, whether it's for, they're tired of their ugly roof or if, it's the training or they wanna sell some ugly roof, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, just go to my website if you want to, jonbroce.com, johnbroce.com. We just released our book too, which you said, "Don't Guess
Yeah.
Thrive Through Storms." And real quick with two, the guess analogy was grow, unleash, enhance, strategize, and synchronize. And so it's really
Mm,
about this is a leadership handbook too, and it was a labor of love. And right now we're giving it away. So if you want to reach out, and we've got 100 to give out. So just let me know. We already got
perfect.
58 gone. So I don't know. By the time that you release this, I might have
They're going
one
fast.
left.
Yeah, we're like 3 weeks behind, I think, right now, so maybe one left.
Yeah,
Alright.
yeah.
Well, thank you
I
for being on
appreciate
the
it,
show, John. I appreciate you.
Alan. Appreciate it, buddy.